but I think we're live right now. Are we live right now? And so great, you guys. I know Julia's followers are in here. Hello. We are going to be talking to you here in this live stream. Julia's going to be here on this live stream in just a second when she comes on, as well as a couple of really awesome guests. Fantastic. So Julia, wonderful to have you with us. Julia, foster advocate. You probably follow her at DiMaggio Days. And we know also, Julia, that your followers are here watching. So we've got a lot of your followers who are here watching this live stream as well. Julia, thanks for being here. Foster advocate. We appreciate you being here to talk with us today.
Hi, I'm so glad to be here. So excited about this.
Now, Julia, do you have any do your followers have like any kind of a follower name, like the DiMaggio Club or something like that?
No, we don't. I post a lot about just our chaotic lives. So they're used to it being all over the place. Kids, me, just total chaos with 7 kids, but it's fine.
Fantastic. Well, so great to have you here. And we're going to be talking about foster care and adoption and how this film, Sound of Hope, is related to that. And I can't wait to get your insights. And I'm glad your fans are in here watching as well. Also with us, Tori Hope Petersen is going to be joining us as well. She is the best-selling author of Fostered. You can follow her at Tori Hope Petersen. Tori, we've got you in.
Hey, I'm so happy to be here.
Great. So glad to have you with us here. I know, Tori, you are the best-selling author of Fostered. People can go find that on Amazon, I imagine. Is that right?
Yeah, anywhere the books are sold. Barnes & Noble, if you don't
Anywhere
like
the books are
Amazon.
sold. Fantastic. Well, we're glad that you're here and that your fans are here watching as well. And we can't wait to dive into conversations about your experiences in the foster care system and your passion for it as well. And then we also have with us Joe Knittig. He is the executive producer of Sound of Hope, also CEO of the Global Orphan Project. That includes Care Portal, which connects churches with children in need. Joe, thank you so much for sharing your time as executive producer of this film with us. So glad to have you.
Happy to be here. Happy to be here. Thank you.
All right, so we've got this awesome lineup, everybody. Julia DiMaggio, we've got Tori Hope Petersen, and Joe Knittig. I know you have questions. I know you're watching on different platforms. You may be watching on Julia's Instagram. Hello, everybody. So make sure you're commenting so we can see your comments also on Tori's Instagram or on all of the Angel platforms as well. Please leave some comments, leave some questions. We want to hear your questions and get to them during this live stream. We're going to be sitting down and talking about this amazing project, about this film that's coming out July 4th, and how it relates to Julia's experiences, to Tori's experiences, and also to Joe's experiences. So before we get any further, we know that you might not be familiar with this film, those who are watching. So if this is the first time you're hearing about it, about Sound of Hope, the Possum Trot story, we're going to watch a trailer. It's the newest trailer that's come out. So we'll watch the trailer. You sit back, enjoy it, watch the trailer, start getting your questions into the chat, and then we'll come back after the trailer and dive into some wonderful discussions. So roll that trailer.
Are you sure these people want us?
I know they do.
You can call me Mama.
It's hard to feel like I'm the only one who sees these things. 70% of the kids in the system are there because of neglect. The other 30% are put through hell. We need your help.
Can you imagine our kids on their own? We can't just look away. The state ain't no family.
Are you sure these people want us?
I know they do.
You can call me Mama. Oh, Lord.
If we can't wrap our arms around the most vulnerable, then what do we have? Noise! And the children can't take the noise anymore.
This is something that we must do.
22 families want to adopt. Whole town wants kids now.
That's about right.
What's happening with Possum Trot could mean a huge change for the system.
We want the ones that nobody else wants.
Who hurt you, baby? I'm not giving up on you. You can't give up on me either. Mommy. Everybody's falling apart.
I'm doing the best I can.
The real world hits hard.
I don't want to be here.
I can't give him back.
We got to work on this together. We your people now. And love never gives up.
That trailer gets me. Joe, that trailer gets me. Every time I see the trailer,
Good.
I've seen the film, and that trailer gets me. All right, so it is opening July 4th. There is a special screening in theaters June 19th, next week on Wednesday. We have a ticket code for you. It is angel.com/Hope Live. If you go to that link, and the QR code is on the screen right now, as you're watching this live stream, or if you're watching on the replay, scan that QR code or go to angel.com/Hope Live, and you'll get 10% off of your ticket purchases. So 10% off on your tickets if you go right now to that link. And we'll also see on screen if you've been buying the tickets. So we'll be shouting you out if you get those tickets as well to go see this film. Again, 10% off if you go to angel.com/Hope Live, and go grab those tickets right now before it sells out on June 19th. And then July 4th. You can skip whatever date you want to go on. June 19th, July 4th, July 5th. It doesn't matter. But go see the film. Tori, Julia, I want to ask you a little bit about the film. You've both seen it. And I want to know, first, what was your initial reaction to when you found out that this film was being made about this subject matter? And then also, what was your reaction when you saw it?
Yeah,
So let's
I was
go,
just so
Tori, let's go you
thankful.
first.
Yeah, I was just so thankful when I saw that it was being made because I think that there are a lot of different conversations around foster care when you're in the space. And I think that comes through books and articles and things that the algorithm pushes. But when it comes to movies, movies are so accessible and understandable to people from all different backgrounds. You don't need an algorithm to get to it as much as you do other forms of media. And so I think I was just really excited because the foster care system sometimes feels like this, it feels hidden. But people need to know about it. They need to be made aware of it in order to help in it. And I think that this movie is a huge encouragement to do just that.
Yeah, thank you. And Julia, how about yourself?
A lot of the same. My first reaction was just, wow, it's so needed. It's so needed to see on screen what it is. We can only do so much speaking, and people, they learn from hearing, they learn from reading, but when you actually see something, when you see these deep emotions that these people are living through, it just touches your heart in a way that you can't get through simply listening. So I think it's going to change lives.
Well, and Julia, I love what you said. And also, Tori, I love what you said. I would love to get your view on this. In talking with some others who are adoptive parents who have been experiencing this firsthand, they said, finally, a film that shows what it's like. The good, the bad, the ugly, the wonderful. It shows what it's like. And I would love to hear your comments on that. And Joe, I'd love for you to chime in on that as well. What do you feel when you hear somebody saying something like that?
Me?
Yeah, go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, that is really what we want to hear. Our North Star in this was authenticity. God wrote an amazing story, a really hard story, but a really victorious one, and a supernatural one. And our belief was that we were supposed to take this from the woods to the world, and that we needed to be authentic. And the Martins were so vulnerable to let us into what really happened and how they had to lean on each other and lean on God. And so when I hear people say, wow, finally there's something authentic, that is really like a badge of honor, because we just figured, you know what, we succeed if we tell the real story and bring it out and just let God be God with that.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. And Tori, your experience. We'd love for those who don't know Tori, who you are. I know your fans are watching, but there's some others who maybe don't know who you are. What is your connection to foster care and adoption? You can let people know and maybe speak to this. And then Julia, we'd love to hear you as well about your connection to it.
I grew up in and out of the foster care system. So I first went to the system when I was 4 years old. I was reunited with my mom, my biological mom, and then I went to the foster care system again as a teenager or as a preteen. And I emancipated out of the foster care system, and now I do foster care advocacy, and I'm also a foster mom as well.
And did you feel like this movie can help people connect to some of the experiences that you experienced while you were growing up and what you've been doing?
Yeah, I think one of my favorite parts about the movie, and I'm going to try my best not to say any spoilers because I want people to enjoy it the same way
That's
that
right.
I did.
No spoilers. Listen, no spoilers. But you know what they can do is they can go get tickets at angel.com/hope live. So angel.com/hope live, 10% off tickets. By the way, big shout out to Paul, to Ben, who just bought tickets. Your name's going to pop up there. So angel.com/hope live. Go scan that QR code, you guys, and go ahead, Tori. Sorry. Because, no spoilers. We don't want spoilers here.
No spoilers. But I think when you grow up in the foster care system and when you experience the things that kids do before they enter the system, children like myself struggle with complex trauma. And I think the movie did such a beautiful job of illustrating what complex trauma can look like in a child's life. And so that other people can extend that compassion, not just to children in the foster care system, but all children who are going through hard things, vulnerable children coming from hard places. And I think at the end of the movie, I thought not just that people were going to get involved in foster care and adoption more, but I thought people are going to love more after seeing this movie. They're going to love better. And in terms of the foster parent side, it's so wild how I view things as a child, and now that I'm a foster parent, I view things so differently. And I didn't think that was going to be the case, and I thought that because I was a foster youth, that I was going to be the greatest foster mom, and that I was gonna know everything. And the way that the movie depicts how difficult it is, but how holy and redemptive it is also just spot on. And I think it can be really hard to depict these things because, like I said, foster care is this hidden place. You know that the people who put their heart and soul into this movie are in the foster care system, that they are knee deep in it, because there's no way that it could be so accurate if they weren't.
Yeah, thank you for that. Julia, what are your thoughts on that? And also, we'd love to hear your experiences.
Of course. It's so true. Everything she said, just you can feel that everyone involved in this has had experience. They know what they're talking about. I felt like the emotions, every emotion from the foster parents' perspective, I have felt it so deep in my heart before. And one thing that I feel the film really did a great job of showing is something that I feel like so many, especially foster parents who are speaking out, who are maybe influencers on social media, try to do is, and you'll hear it a lot online when they say, it's hard, but it's worth it. Like, it's just something that you hear all the time among foster parents. And this film was able to take that phrase, and I feel like they pulled it out of my heart, pulled it out of my mind, and put it on the screen. They made it's hard, but worth it something you can see with your eyes and you can feel deep within your soul.
And Julia, you have how many children in your household?
7.
7. 7. So you're speaking also from such an intimate experience with this.
Yes. Yes.
So
it's been a journey.
And go ahead. Tell more. Tell us more.
Okay. Well, we started fostering about 12 years ago, and we have had over 30 children come through our home. We actually adopted our daughter, who is 17 internationally. And then it was just something that it wouldn't go away. The thought of opening our home to foster care, to more children. And we did it about 12 years ago, and we have not looked back. It's changed our lives in so many ways.
Joe, I want to ask you as well, when Tori and Julia are talking about this and talking about just how well it kind of relates, and Tori brought up the idea of just also how redemptive and holy it is as well. You know, you see the tough times, you see how holy and redemptive it is. As executive producer of the film, what thoughts come to your mind when they say things like that?
It moves me. It really touches my heart. You know, of course, I would get on something like this, or you would, and we would say, well, you got to go see this movie. But when you have such humble, integral leaders like Julia and Tori that are the messengers saying, this really spoke to my heart, I actually think that that means so much to all of us who made this. It's what we wanted. Um, Julia's in the trenches. She is walking the walk out, and she's doing it with humility and great joy. And Tori has this lived experience all the way through. And we feel like that's important, not just for this movie, but for the movement. These kids are not the objects of our pity. They are, I really believe, like they're the anointed ones. And maybe they're being sent to us to help us love better, to defibrillate our hearts. And when I hear Tori, I think it's time that there be new leaders in this country, new leaders in the movement who can actually say, I am that child. And so when I hear their perspectives, it really touches me because that was really the dream. I'll share just a story with you that there have been multiple times, even to the run up of this film, where I'm like, Lord, if all you let me do is see this, it's enough. And one time I was at a screening of this in Dallas, Texas, and there was a young lady who was one of the adopted children in Possum Trot. And she went through all kinds of trauma, just like Tori's talking about, so deep. And, you know, it's her story to tell, not mine. And she's going to tell it. But she went through so much, and she was, you know, suicidal multiple times. And today she's an NCAA track star, and she's getting her master's in trauma therapy for children. And she was sitting next to Bishop Martin and Donna Martin in the theater weeping, and I could feel like the tears were like healing. She was watching. I can't believe how much they sacrificed for me. And at the end of it, she walked up to Bishop Martin and wrapped her arms around him, just weeping, and said, thank you for saving my life. And Bishop Martin is a tough nut to crack, but the next morning we were having coffee, and I asked him about that moment, and he just broke down in tears. And so when I hear these testimonies and I hear their vantage points, I just am very thankful.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you for sharing that. We'll get into a little more. Let's reset for the people who are just joining the live stream. We know we have new people coming in all the time. You might be watching on Julia's Instagram. You might be watching on Tori's Instagram. You might be watching on the Angel app or on Angel Studios, various social media platforms. We're talking about Sound of Hope, the story of Possum Trot. We have with us executive producer Joe Knittig. And we also have with us Julia DiMaggio, who is a foster advocate and influencer. You might follow her at DiMaggio Days. And Tori Hope Petersen, who's also the best-selling author of the book Fostered, and also a foster care advocate. And her Instagram is at Tori Hope Petersen. Joe mentioned, you know, we could sit here and just talk about, hey, go see this movie, get the tickets. Well, I will say that right now. Go get some tickets right now. 10% off. It's a special discount that we have for our live stream audience. So I know you're watching with Julia or with Tori or also on Angel Studios. If you use angel.com/hope live, angel.com/hope live. We see you, Cecilia and Paul. Thank you for grabbing those tickets. Go grab them right now for 10% off, and you will be able to book your seat in theater before before it sells out. Also, to set the table, we just want to watch the trailer one more time for those who are just joining and you don't quite know what Sound of Hope, the story of Possum Trot is. We're going to watch the trailer one more time, and then when we come back out of that, we are going to dive into a little more discussion about what people can do and about getting involved in the foster care movement. So let's roll that trailer one more time.
Are you sure these people want us?
I know they do.
You can call me Mama.
It's hard to feel like I'm the only one who sees these things. 70% of the kids in the system are there because of neglect. The other 30% are put through hell. We need your help.
Can you imagine our kids on their own? We can't just look away. The state ain't no family.
Are you sure these people want us?
I know they do.
You can call me Mama. Oh, Lord.
If we can't wrap our arms around the most vulnerable, then what do we have? Noise! And the children can't take the noise anymore.
This is something that we must do.
22 families want to adopt. Whole town wants kids now.
That's about right.
What's happening with Possum Trot could mean a huge change for the system.
We want the ones that nobody else wants.
Who hurt you, baby? I'm not giving up on you. You can't give up on me either. What we gonna do? Everybody's falling apart.
I'm doing the best I can.
The real world hits hard.
I don't want to be here. I can't give him back.
We gotta work on this together. We your people now. And love never gives up.
So that is the trailer of Sound of Hope, the story of Possum Trot. Again, you can get tickets for 10% off. Angel.com/Hope Live. Get them right now, 10% off. We saw you, Luis, grabbing those tickets. Your name will even pop up on the screen if you grab them right now. And we have with us Julia DiMaggio and Tori Hope Petersen and Joe Knittig. So grateful to have you here talking about it. I would love to just get into a little thought and discussion about, so Julia and Tori, you have these intimate experiences with foster care and with adoption. It's one thing to have experiences like that. It's another thing to become advocates, to become vocal in the public advocates of it. Were there certain experiences, and Joe, you can speak to this as well. I would love to hear your perspective, but maybe Julia, we'll go with you first. Did you have a certain experience that inspired you to think, I want to become a public advocate for foster care? Similar to, what this movie is doing for people. Was there an experience like that in your life, or was it sort of gradually happening?
I'd say it was a little bit of both. The social media platform happened kind of naturally. I was just posting some of our lives, some of my prayers for my children, some of our experiences in foster care, and it just kind of exploded. But as far as something that I can pinpoint that really made me want to go public is, I can remember when we first began even thinking about fostering and taking the classes, I had so many people, and this was shown very briefly in the movie. I don't want to give anything away either, but where people would come up to me and they would tell me these stories, and they would always be a horrific story, something negative, something scary. And I think a large part of me going public with this is just to tell people that's not the case. That's not always true. Yes, it's hard. Yes, it's scary. But, fear can be really, really loud. And faith can sometimes feel so small, even when it's not, because fear is so loud. And I felt like the fear of fostering in people is so loud that our voice is saying, yes, it's scary. Sound of Hope saying, yes, it's scary. Yes, it's hard. But this is what it's all about is so important. And I'd say that was kind of what put a fire under me to go public, is just to show people the reality and show people it can be part of your regular life. It doesn't have to be this big scary thing. It can just be something that you walk through with God, and you walk through with your family, and it can be beautiful, hard, scary, all at the same time.
Thanks, Julia. And Tori, how about your thoughts on that?
Yeah, when I was in the foster care system, I lived throughout 12 different homes. And in my last foster home, my foster mom was taking me to church. And I was very skeptical of God. I didn't imagine how I could believe in God. And I also go through everything that I went through, the abuse and just the heartache and all the homes, and not feeling loved and not feeling wanted and being thrown out over and over again. And my foster mom was taking me to this church, and my head pastor, he had started a ministry to serve foster children and foster families. And then the associate pastor was a foster to adopt parent. And there were many adoptive parents and foster parents in our congregation. And week after week, I just remember looking at them and thinking, maybe if they care about kids like me, then maybe God cares about me. And slowly my heart was, I think I'm going to cry, because I think that's what this movie is showing, that when the church cares about vulnerable youth, vulnerable kids, the way that God does, ultimately their heart will be drawn towards him. And ultimately, my heart was drawn towards the Lord. And that perspective and the way that my identity changed to I'm unwanted, I'm unloved, I'm thrown out, to I'm wanted, I'm loved, I'm actually a daughter of a king, and I have a home and a family, that completely changed my identity and my perspective of myself. And I mean, there was still years of working through that. But I think that was when there was a very, very big shift. And I think for me, to not go and tell would be to not glorify God with the work that he's done in my life, with the beauty that he has orchestrated. So that is why I tell. And that is especially why I'm an advocate of people to go see this movie, because it's so much bigger than the foster care system even. That is, of course, what it's about, but it's about what we are supposed to do as people made in the image of God, for children made in the image of God, because so often we look at that system, just as Julia said, we look at this system and we're like, oh, it's so broken. Like, I can't get involved in that. But we forget that us as believers have the Holy Spirit literally dwelling within our very being, which means we have the power to step into the brokenness and bring wholeness and healing to it. That doesn't mean that it's easy, but we are capable of that.
Wow, thank you for sharing that, Tori, and thank you for being so vulnerable as well. Joe, any thoughts?
I think what's on my heart is just to encourage everybody that's watching this right now. We're living in a time where there is so much division and really hopelessness. And you're seeing right now, listening to these two leaders who are really ambassadors of hope and change and what can be done and what God can do through all of us. And so I just want to encourage everybody that if you're afraid, or you're just feeling something inside, just look and listen to what these two are telling you and go for it. Yeah, go see the movie, but then even beyond then, there is a role for you to play. But what I love about these two leaders, and really the whole film, and what I love about the Martins and Bennett Chapel, is I feel like this whole thing needs a rebrand, right? Like, this idea that this is just this brutal blood slog, and that these kids are like just pitiful little creatures, and there's just no good, and so I just got to go flog my back and go. That's crazy. Like, there's so much promise. That's what kills me about this. There's so many children of promise that we are willing to leave in systems in this country. I can't understand it. And when you see ambassadors like Julia, like Tori right now, I just want everybody to feel super encouraged that maybe God is doing something in this hour of history, and it's just like time. And new voices and new faces are rising up to say, we can completely turn this thing around. And that's really what's on my heart. And I feel so humbled and excited when I hear from Julia and when I hear from Tori, and frankly, so many around the country and around the world that have this spirit. And really what it comes from is we have the spirit of adoption. Like, we have that power in us. How can we not give it and share it? So I just think it's a special time in history, and we wanted this film to be like a catalyst for things to really explode in a grassroots way through brand new leaders. I feel like a generational handoff is happening right now.
Well, thank you, Joe. And I think, I mean, obviously, you mentioned they can go see the film. What are some other things that people can do? And I'd love to hear from anyone. Julie, I love what you talked about hope and letting people know about this hope, and Tori about this love and knowing that you are loved. What are some of the things that people can do? I mean, of course, they can look to adopt. They can look to adopt out of the foster care system. I think that is, I have talked personally with people who have seen this film. They've seen early screeners of this film, much like Julia and much like Tori, and they've said, we weren't considering it, but now we are. That's the kind of inspiration that it is spreading amongst people. And Joe, I know there are some, very drastic numbers. I'm not drastic. I shouldn't say drastic. There are achievable numbers nationwide that I know you've quoted a lot about when it comes to the foster care and kids in the foster care system. But what are some other things that people can do beyond that? I would love to hear anyone's thoughts who wants to chime in.
Yeah, I'll go ahead. There's so much that we can do. And I think that I love what Joe said. We need a rebrand, because usually people think, okay, if when I hear about the foster care system, the only thing that I can do is be a foster parent. And that is absolutely very, very needed. There are children waiting to be adopted. There are children in the foster care system sleeping in human services offices or in group homes that they don't actually qualify to be in because they cannot find a family foster home for them. And so, yes, that is genuinely a need. But I think there's also so much more. So I want to talk about those things. There are waiting children. You can Google waiting children in your state, and what many people will see is they'll see Adopt Us Kids come up. And that's a website that has so many children all over the nation listed. But there's also, if you just keep searching on Google, there's actually a ton of other kids that are not listed on that website. And you can go county to county to county, and you will see countless children waiting in the foster care system right now that you will not, there's no waiting, not like there is when you welcome a child into your home. They're the ones waiting, and they're waiting for parents who are ready. And so I would encourage people to look up those, it's called photo listing. Look up photo list, waiting children in your state, in your county. And there's just so many. Another thing is some of the most impactful people in my life. I like to say that we can be more than foster parents, because some of the most impactful people in my life were actually mentors. My track coach actually was someone who was just like a father figure to me. And I trained under him for about 3 years. And then my last year of high school, I actually became a state champion under his training. And he took me into his home, and he adopted me into his family after I emancipated out of care. after I had lived in 12 homes. And that too, I always wondered who's going to walk me down the aisle at my wedding. Who am I going to tell my kids is their grandpa on my side? And he is all of those things. He walked me down the aisle. He is who my kids call grandpa, and he's who I went home to on the holidays during my college years. And he's my adopted dad. And then there was a woman who she was a youth leader at my church. And when I lived with my biological mom and things would get really difficult, she would come and she'd pick me up and she'd feed me and my sister and she'd take us to church. And that woman, she's still like a mother figure to me today. And I watch her mom and I watch her be a wife. And, when you come from a dysfunctional background, I always knew that I wanted something different for my family, that I wanted something different for my children. You can know what you don't want when you come from dysfunction, but it can be really difficult to know what you do want and understand how to get there. And by watching this mother figure in my life, her name is Tanya, I felt like I learned how to be a healthy mom, how to be a better wife. And I think, right, those people, what they did is they just were loving disciples. They just followed Christ and used what they had right in front of them to love the kids who were right in front of them with what they had. So sometimes I think we can make it a little bit more complicated than it is. Sometimes we just need to look and see what's in front of us, who's in front of us, and love them well.
Thanks, Tori. Julia or Joe, any thoughts?
I actually have a specific story that comes to mind when you mention this. And first of all, nothing is too small. I think that a lot of times people think that they have to do something huge to help. I get a lot of messages of people saying, what can I do? Where can I give? And the main thing is not feeling like what you have to give is insignificant or too small to matter. And the story that I have is about 4.5 years ago, we brought a baby into our home through foster care. And then a month later, we got a call and were asked to take another baby. They were both newborns. And we said yes. It was a lot. I had very little sleep at the time. We knew this was like it was meant to be. We knew we were supposed to do this. But it was very hard having 2 newborn babies. And what I will always remember is this group of ladies who I didn't know them all personally. I don't think any of them were foster parents. They got together and they brought us a hot meal every day for weeks. It lifted my heart so much. It helped me feel loved and seen, and like what we were doing not only mattered, but that we mattered. And because a lot of times going through this and with your family, going through foster care, being a foster family, you just kind of go through the motions and you forget that people are watching. And this was such a big thing that they did for us. And I know they felt like, I just cooked a meal, I just brought them a meal. But for us, it was so much more than a meal. So I just encourage anyone, you don't have to foster, but anything that you do, no matter how small, it can mean the world to foster parents or to the children.
My goodness, what a wonderful thing to bring up, Julia. Again, like Tori was saying, no spoilers. We're not going to spoil the film for you. But in the film, and to go see the film, by the way, angel.com/hope live. Grab your tickets right now. It's 10% off. You're not going to be able to get 10% off if you get your tickets at another time without going to that link. So get them right now. We saw some people buying them in Florida and Alabama. Angel.com/hope live. Grab 10% off. Grab a showing. Go see it in theaters. In the movie, there are these amazing scenes where the community is helping each other. And what you brought up, Julia, I think is such a wonderful point, and Tori as well, what you're talking about with mentors, etc. But people who are just helping others who are helping, right? And there are a lot of scenes that come up in my mind with the Martins and the community helping each other in this effort. And so what you said, Julia, you don't have to, in order to be a good Christian, you don't have to foster a child. but think about helping someone else who is doing that and the support that you become of that. Joe, I would love to hear your thoughts on that as well.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite subjects. Um, you know, okay, so we see what the challenges are. What are the solutions? And I grew up a little bit different. I didn't go into the system, but I had, grew up in a very abusive household, and things happened. My dad really struggled with some issues, and we felt it as kids. And I don't really want to get into all of the details of it, but things happen that should never happen to children. And my mom was a bartender, and we had 7 kids. Julia, look out! And my mom had 7 children, and she was a bartender in a little dive in South St. Louis, and she had to survive and raise kids on her own, and really dealing with so much abuse and hurt. And one of the things I want people to know is that we have to actually wrap around people like my mother too, before she loses her kids to systems. My mom was such a warrior, and somehow she kept us out of systems. I don't know, other than the grace of God, how she did that. But most of the kids that end up in foster care go to foster care because of neglect. One of the things we want the country to see is we want the country to see this film and ask the question, why do we wait so long when families are hurting? And we put scenes in there that tease this out. So back to Julia's point, neighbors can serve neighbors, and we can wrap around families who are struggling before their kids go into the system and meet felt needs and get in relationships with them and wrap around them. And we can do the same for foster parents and adoptive parents. So everybody has a role to play. And in fact, I have this fancy title, executive producer, but I'm really not a movie guy. My world is child advocacy. I'm the CEO of Care Portal. And Care Portal just takes things that Tori and Julie are hinting at. It's like it's a care sharing technology where real vetted needs can be entered, and local churches and community responders can get them on their phone and can meet felt needs and then go build a relationship, and we stay anonymous. And today, that just to show the power and the thirst that people have to make a difference, the network using Care Portal today have served over 276,000 children through this technology platform, and we're just one. So everybody can do something. If we really want to end the crisis, we need to go upstream and keep kids from going into the system in the first place. And we need to support the heroic families who are fostering and adopting, wrap around them like those amazing women that were bringing dinner every day at a key moment in Julia's life. Last thing I'll say, Eric, is what can people do? When we're pushing tickets, we're not doing that to just like, cool, we're going to sell a ticket. I think the first thing that we need is we need a massive show of force for children in theaters. Like we need a grassroots rising up. And if millions and millions of people, when they're used to seeing, the latest Disney film or something where all huge marketing budgets are spent to try to churn people out, if people move from their hearts and there is a flood in theaters and we make the media and we make everybody say, what in the world is going on here? Like we need to shake the nation and have a loud trumpet blast. And that will happen when people flood theaters. So don't just buy a ticket. Tell your friends. There are discounted group tickets you can get. Bring your whole church. But I think we need, what I'd hate to see happen is this movie comes out that is meant to move people to change. And everybody's so thinking about what we could do next that we miss the moment to just go flood theaters and make a statement about the value of these children, how important they are to us and to God, and to actually cause this country to wake the heck up.
Thank you, Joe. Yes, and there is hope. There is hope for these children and all of these children. And if you can help create that movement, again, like Joe was saying, it's not just about grabbing a ticket. It's not just about going to see a movie. It's about helping to wake the world up to this issue. So angel.com/hope live. Go grab some tickets. 10% off if you go to that link. go grab a bunch of tickets for your family and your friends in your neighborhood. Bring the whole neighbor. Have a neighborhood party and go to a theater. We're having a special screening June 19th, this Wednesday. If you're watching it before June 19th, go see it. Then it opens in all theaters across the nation July 4th. Angel.com/Hope Live, and make sure you go grab your tickets, 10% off as well. Well, this has been such a wonderful discussion, Joe, Julia, Tori. Thank you for sharing your experiences, and they're different, and yet they're related. And I've loved hearing these experiences, and I know, Joe, I know you do as well, particularly as it relates to the movie that you've made as well. We don't want to do spoilers, but I do, since we're talking about the movie a little bit. Favorite scene, maybe not favorite scene, but most impactful scene. If you can share one of the scenes in the movie that maybe was the most impactful without spoiling it, because then we want to give a little teaser so people can maybe think that they want to go see the movie. But maybe one of the most impactful scenes that you saw in broad strokes. Thank you for purchasing tickets there in Beaumont as well. Julia, I'm going to go to you first.
Okay, so it was more of something that was said. I won't say who says it, but it's one of the main characters. And it was when they were kind of questioning, like, why would you do this? It's so hard. And he said there shouldn't be a child without a home, and that we can turn this whole thing around. And I think that is the whole point. That is the whole message of Sound of Hope. It's like, we can turn this entire thing around. That's what they did. That's what the community did. And if every town, if every church got that point, that it doesn't have to be everyone, but even if a small percentage said, yes, I'm going to do this, I'm going to open my home, there would be no children left. There would be no need for social workers to call home after home after home until it's in the middle of the night because they have children sleeping in the office. And we have gotten many of those phone calls at 1, 2, 3 in the morning saying, can you take, I know your home is full, but can you take a child just for a few days until we find them a more permanent home? And that shouldn't even exist. That shouldn't even be a thing. They should be able to say, okay, this child needs a home. I know exactly where to put them because these people are passionate. So many more people should be passionate about these children. And so that's all.
Thank you, Julia. Tori.
Yeah, I had so many favorite scenes. I think I felt like I related to so many different parts of the movie. But I think my favorite scene was when they're in the church, and there's like some questioning from congregant members if they should really be getting involved in foster care, like in some looking down on even. And I know maybe a lot of the people probably listening and watching this are like, foster parents are amazing. But there is actually the flip side to it, which every foster parent has also experienced, where people think we're kind of crazy and where people look down on us. And the pastor, he says, this is our role. Like, we are responsible for these children. And he begins to bang on the cymbal. And it's not explicitly said in the sermon, but that's coming from 1 Corinthians 13:1, which says, if I speak in tongues or of men or of angels, but do not have love, I am only a resounding gong or clanging cymbal. And I think that, right? Like, I just keep going back to that. That is the whole point of this movie and of this movement. It is bigger than foster care. It's to have the love of Christ in our heart so that we can then extend it to people who need it.
I had not even made that connection to that scripture and to him banging on the cymbal. Are you kidding me?
That's what it is, right, Joe? Am I right or am I wrong?
Joe, was
right.
that purposeful?
Okay.
That was purposeful, and that's Josh and Rebecca Weigel's genius. There are so many I can tell you that when you go see this, it's very loaded. Every word, every movement, every image was literally 8 years of the Weigels praying and writing so thoughtfully, and then a cast who just executed it with such authenticity. It's like they weren't even acting. It just was inside of them, and that's true. And so, but yeah, that is actually exactly right. And it's meant to say to the church in particular, time to wake up and love for real. I'll do mine because Father's Day is coming up, and I'm a daddy, and there is a scene with Terry, you know, and Terry could easily have been little Tori, and Reverend Martin is inside of his house with his biological daughter playing the piano, and they're really enjoying each other, and Terry comes to the window to watch this, and she begins to privately try to mouth the word daddy. And it's so foreign to her. And that scene moves me. And on this Father's Day, with such a problem of fatherlessness, we want every child to not only be able to have a safe home, but we want children to be able to say with safety and security and have it naturally flow, daddy. And that scene for Father's Day has been hitting me pretty hard.
Well, you're making me almost not be able to talk, Joe. So thank you. I'm a father as well, and that just really touches my heart as well. Well, thank you, Julia, Tori, Joe, for joining us. We're running up towards the end of our live stream time, but thank you so much for joining us and sharing your experiences and being open and honest with us about this. And there is hope. There are things we can do, and we've brought up so many of them in this stream. I did not even think we would be able to talk about as many as we did in this stream. So go back and rewatch it. If you're just watching it, if you're just joining us right now in the live stream, it'll be posted. You can go back and rewatch, because it's been such a wonderful hour of hope and inspiration from what you have shared, Julia and Tori and Joe. So thank you. Thank you so much. Go to angel.com/hope live. 10% off, 10% off your tickets. I love saving 10%. So if you love saving 10%, go there right now and you can get 10% off your tickets and make this into a movement, like Joe was saying, where he said, it's time for the new generation to rise up. Time for a brand change. What was it? A rebrand. Time for a rebrand. I love that. It's time for a rebrand, and make this into a movement and show the world that we care, that you care about these issues. So angel.com/hope live. We're going to end this with watching the trailer. Patricia just bought some tickets. Thank you, Patricia. You'll see your name flying up on the screen if you grab tickets right now. But we are going to watch the trailer one more time, and then the live stream will end. So this is where we get to say our goodbyes. Go grab tickets while you're watching this trailer. Joe, Tori, Julia, any last words?
I'll go first. Thank you are my words for Tori and Julia, for who you are, for how you represent. Thank you.
Go ahead, Tori.
Yeah, thank you for having us on, Joe. It means a lot that you would trust our voices on such a beautiful, big project. When I think of last words, I just think of James 1:27, religion that is pure and undefiled before God the Father is this: to visit orphan and widows in their affliction and to keep oneself unstained from the world. And then, there's actually more. If you just go into chapter 2, if you just keep reading, I know there's that big 2 there and it looks like it's divided, but actually if you keep reading, it says to not show favoritism, that when someone who's poor comes to your door, to not put them in a lowly place, to not put them at your feet, but put them at the same place you would put the rich man. And so if I could just leave the people watching with the last words, I would leave them with that scripture and ask them the question of what would it look like to not show favoritism and to show love in this way, to care for children.
Thank you, Tori. And Julia, any last words?
That was beautiful, Tori. I would just want to say thank you for having me. And this film is just so important. It's important to get the word out and to go see it and to support it. And I'll repeat what I said earlier. There shouldn't be a child without a home, and we can truly turn this thing around.
Thank you. Thank you, Julia. We can, and we can turn this thing around. So please turn it around. Go to the theaters. We saw you in Waukee Palms Theater grabbing some tickets. Angel.com/Hope Live. Get your 10% off. We're going to watch the trailer one last time. But again, Julia, Tori, Joe, thank you so much for joining us. And onward and upward. So thank you.
Are you sure these people want us?
I know they do.
You can call me Mama.
It's hard to feel like I'm the only one who sees these things. 70% of the kids in the system are there because of neglect. The other 30% are put through hell. We need your help.
Can you imagine our kids on their own? We can't just look away. The state ain't no family.
Are you sure these people want us?
I know they do.
You can call me Mama. Oh, Lord.
If we can't wrap our arms around the most vulnerable, then what do we have? Noise! And the children can't take the noise anymore.
This is something that we must do.
22 families want to adopt. Whole town wants kids now.
That's about right.
What's happening with Possum Trot could mean a huge change for the system.
We want the ones that nobody else won't.
Who hurt you, baby? I'm not giving up on you. You can't give up on me either. What we gonna do? Everybody's falling apart.
I'm doing the best I can.
The real world hits hard.
I don't want to be here! I can't give him back.
We gotta work on this together. We your people now. And love never gives up.